Hey guys, welcome to your weekly forecast for July 29th to August 4th. This is the last week of July and the first week of August. And so I'm going to try to keep this one short because I'm working on a weekly forecast and so a monthly forecast. And so we are also going to have one closer to August for the astrology of August. And so let's get into this week. First, we have Monday, July 29th. We're going to have the moon in Taurus making a square to Venus and Leo. It's going to be conjunct Uranus and Taurus as well, and then make a sextile to Neptune and Pisces. And then later in the day, the moon is going to enter Gemini. It's going to make a trine to Pluto in Aquarius and a square to Mercury in Virgo. So you can expect some kind of change or development in the Taurus part of your chart, especially with that Moon and Uranus conjunction there. Dream big and allow yourself to talk about it. Just be aware of the weight that your words can carry. With Uranus involved, and especially with Neptune being involved as well, there can be a little bit of confusion around it and a little bit of fantasy as well. And so just try to be mindful of the impact that your words have, the weight that they carry. They can be really good or really heavy. Sometimes someone says something really supportive and it's heavy, and sometimes someone says something uh, harmful, hurtful even, and it's very heavy. And so just be aware of the weight. And that's it for Monday, the 29th. Next, we're going to have Tuesday, the 30th. The moon in Gemini is going to make a conjunction to Mars in Gemini. It's going to make a sextile to the Sun in Leo, another sextile to the North Node in Aries. It's going to make a conjunction to Jupiter in Gemini. And then we've also got Venus in Leo making a trine to Chiron in Aries. And Juno in Virgo is making a trine to Uranus in Taurus. And hold on a second, what is Juno? Juno is an asteroid, one of the four asteroid goddesses introduced by Demetra George, and it's often known as the asteroid of like the marriage asteroid. I think it might have been Demetra herself in one of her books kind of clarified and expanded on that idea of it being the marriage asteroid, with it being the commitment asteroid. It's not necessarily who we're married to, it's what we're committed to. It's the relationships that we choose to be in. And so, I'm married. I chose to get married, and it was a choice. And every day we choose to be with each other, regardless of how we feel. I mean, we love each other a lot. Actually, that's my marriage altar back there. We have a very wonderful marriage, but we're not married because we feel good things about each other. We're married because we choose to be married to each other. We choose to be in relationship with each other. It's been, I think, about 3 years now, and we're in our 20s. So 3 years in your 20s is like 10 years. And especially those last 3 years we've had, a lot has happened. And so we're different people than we used to be, but we still choose to, be with the other person where they're at and how they are. And yeah, I wanted to include Juno in my interpretation today. It's not something that I always include, but of Juno conjunct my ascendant. And so I use it a lot in my personal astrology. And yeah, if you're not familiar with it, you can just tie it to the idea of commitment. And now you have a little bit of Juno knowledge on you. So on the 30th, on Tuesday, today's a good day to follow up on the plans and conversations from yesterday. Be gentle with your words. I mean that because we have Mars conjunct the moon in Gemini, the sign of words and speaking and communicating. And with Mars there, it can get a little dicey. We can get a little hot-headed. When I said yesterday, think about the weight of your words. Today, it's like you really need to be gentle. So be gentle with your conversations and make sure that you express gratitude. I think when someone is feeling unappreciated, that leads to a lot of other feelings and a lot of other conflicts. And just starting out with, hey, I appreciate you, whether that's during a conflict or afterwards or before it as a preventative, expressing gratitude, people in your life, the relationships you have. Because no matter what your complaints about them are, you choose to be in that relationship with them, and they are choosing to be in that relationship with you. So yeah, just be gentle and think about what lessons you've learned you've already learned that can be applied to your relationships. Remember your commitments to both yourself and others. So, yeah, like I was just saying, are you, we don't just make commitments to others, we also make them to ourselves. Even owning a possession is a commitment to, keeping it in good condition. It's, you start kind of like a social contract almost with that object. And I'm a big animist, as you can tell. And so you have this contract with this thing to, keep it clean and keep it in good condition and, to just do your best with it. So commitments aren't just to other people or just to yourself, they're also to other things. And yeah, I think getting really clear on what you're committed to, why you're committed to it, it brings a lot of room for autonomy in your life because then you can kind of adjust them as you need. So then we are on to Wednesday, the 31st, July 31st. The moon is still going to be in Gemini. It's going to make a square to Saturn retrograding in Pisces. It's going to make a sextile to Venus and Leo, make a square to Neptune and Pisces, and then in the evening, it is going to move into Cancer. We also have the Sun in Leo, making a trine to Aries. And so for this Wednesday, you'll start to see your words and ideas contrast with the existing structures in your life. How can you reconcile what you want with what you're already committed to? Today is a good day for rest. And so we have our commitments to things. And as we're going through this week and kind of thinking about the things that we are choosing to be in relationship with and the people we're choosing to be in relationship with, we're also looking inwards and seeing what do we want? What do we want out of this relationship? Is it exactly how I want it? Or do I want to change in dynamic? Do I want my commitment to mean something else than it did when I made that commitment? So today's kind of just a good day to think about it. You don't necessarily have to, mull over it or really go on and on and on. It's just something to kind of consider. But yeah, taking some time for it and maybe not even acting on it, just thinking about how does what you want fit into your life and start thinking about ways that you can get there. But don't act on it yet. Just we're gonna relax a little bit. The moon is waning. It's not going to be full for a minute. It's not going to be a new moon until Sunday. And so, yeah, just work with this waning energy, kind of, you know, simmer down if you can. So that's gonna be Wednesday, the 31st. And that's it for July. That's it for July. Now we're on to August officially. Congratulations, we made it. And so August the 1st is a Thursday, and we're gonna have the moon in Cancer. It's gonna make a sextile to Mercury and Virgo. It's gonna make a square to the North Node in Aries. And then we also have Mars and Gemini making a sextile to the North Node in Aries. And so don't be too quick to dismiss difficulty as a sign that you're moving in the wrong direction. Hard work pays off even when it isn't obvious. And so I think there's some work being done that's bringing up some difficulty. And it's important not to associate that difficulty with the idea that you're moving in the wrong direction because this is kind of a silly analogy, but when you're playing a video game and you level up and you progress through the game, you fight stronger enemies, and you can't do that just starting off because you're not strong enough yet. And as you get stronger, your enemies get stronger, and your rewards also become greater. And so maybe this is kind of like a little grinding phase. Which in video games is just something that's very monotonous. It's you're just doing something, it feels repetitive, it's exhausting at times. I'm not a big grinder, but it does pay off. I mean, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and so, don't dismiss the difficulty as something that is working against you. Try to recognize it as a sign that you're moving in the right direction. And I'm all about making life easier. I love, doing more by doing less. I love relaxing and taking it easy. But this is a day to work with it. This is a day to, just because something's hard doesn't mean you're moving in the wrong direction. And just because something's easy doesn't mean you're moving. Just because something is easy doesn't mean you're moving in the right direction. And so think about the difficulty in your life and what it could mean outside of just being difficult. That's it for Thursday. Next, we're going to have Friday, August 2nd. And on Friday, we're going to have Venus and Leo making a square to Uranus and Taurus. And then the moon is in Cancer is going to make a trine to Saturn retrograding in Pisces and a square to Chiron in Aries. And so for Friday the 2nd, trying something new can feel wrong even when it's right. Try to focus on what you have in common with others that are different from you so that you can learn new things about yourself. And so this is kind of working with the idea that everyone is kind of a mirror. We all are human and we all share traits with each other that aren't always so obvious because a lot of us really contrast each other. We have very different personalities. And so it can be easy to get lost in all of that, especially when you're being introduced to a new kind of person or a new kind of dynamic. I think if there's one thing I've learned through just being very cardinal heavy in my chart, just loving to start things, loving to try new things, failing a lot, but learning a lot as well. And so what I've learned is that whenever you try something new, it feels wrong. And it doesn't mean it's wrong, it just feels wrong because you don't have the muscle memory for what it's like to move there. You don't have the experience of knowing that it's going to be okay even if it's not okay. And I think a lot about how I moved around a lot when I was younger. I We moved about once a year, and so I was always going to a different school. I was always the new kid, and I just had to learn to work what it's like to be the new person and to work with what that means because it's not just that I'm new and everyone else has something more established and I'm not welcome or I'm some kind of outcast. Because even if I am, it's a new opportunity. It was always a new chance to be someone else, to do something else, to be whatever kind of person I wanted because the people I was growing alongside, like my elementary school classmates is mostly what I'm talking about. There was no guarantee that they would be my classmates the next year. And so I had a lot of freedom to kind of experiment with the way that I socialize with other people that ended up being really helpful as an autistic person. There's some things I think it's just hard to learn without the exposure. And I think it also brought a lot of difficulties too. But point being, trying something new feels wrong a lot of the time. It doesn't mean it is wrong. It just means it's new. And so if we can separate what is new from what is, harmful versus uncomfortable, we can really grow a lot. And hanging around people that are different from us, getting to know them and understand them, we can start to see parts of ourselves in them. We can learn more about ourselves that we wouldn't learn about if when we're surrounded by people that we're just really on the same page about, because those same parts are kind of reflecting off each other. And it's beautiful and it's great. And it's also beautiful when there's a contrast and someone is just really shining their light through the holes of your personality. It gives you a lot to reflect on. So yeah, that's going to be Friday the 2nd. Next we have August 3rd, Saturday. And so this Saturday we're going to have the moon in Cancer making a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. It's going to make a trine to Neptune retrograding in Pisces. And then later in the morning, it's going to enter Leo, make an opposition with Pluto in Aquarius, and a trine to the North Node in Aries. And so we've got the moon moving from Cancer to Leo and hitting a few places along the way. Sometimes strange dreams can take us away from reality, and other times they can bring us closer to an alternate reality. Dreams come from the future. And so the reason I wanted to take it this direction, I think with kind of Neptune playing a part, with Uranus playing a part, with Pluto playing a part, and even the North Node, it just brings this kind of dreamy quality to mind for me. And it makes me think about how there are futures that we would want and we would desire, but we don't pursue them or even consider them as a real possibility because it's not reality. It is not the current reality. It feels like some alternate reality that is just a fantasy. And there's a lot of power in that and in those dreams and in those alternate realities that we can create, even if it's just in our mind, because that's what leads to our collective reality changing. And so, maybe not every dream comes from the future. And, sometimes maybe you're changing your meds and then you're starting to get some funny dreams. I think the idea of dreaming as something that is tangible and something that is able to be integrated into reality, there's just a lot of power there. And so that's something I want to think about this week. And that's it for Saturday. Next, we're going to have Sunday, August 4th. And August 4th is a little big because we have a new moon in Leo. The new moon is going to make a sextile to Mars and Gemini, and another sextile to not Uranus, Jupiter and Gemini. And on the same day that we have the new moon in Leo, we're going to have Venus entering Virgo. And so, and the image that this was bringing up for me was the idea, I'm thinking like Sailor Moon, like a magical girl transformation. Sailor Moon's a great example. I think that's like one of the classics. And, maybe it even set the standard for those transformations. Um, but even the idea of like Superman having an also being Bruce, I think that was his name, or is that Batman's name? Either way, both of them, Batman and Superman, they both have these, alternate personalities, and then they go through this transformation and become something else, whether it's just putting on a different suit and changing their clothes, or, having having access to more tools that they didn't before. That's just the imagery that this new moon gives. And so I want you to think about what it would be like to put your mundane life aside and become someone else. I think Superman had like an office job. Like it was just, kind of boring. I said magical girl transformation and I'm going to like all these male superheroes because I'm also thinking of Spider-Man and how he's also Peter Parker and how they're different people, but they're also the same person. And how being someone else enables you to see different parts of yourself and have access to different parts of yourself that you might not normally have because you're doing something different. You're putting yourself in a different outfit, you're putting yourself in a different position. The way that we dress and express ourselves, it can have a lot to say about us, collectively. What kind of aesthetics that we resonate with, and what kind of people that we look up to and would, want to look like the people that we're attracted to. And so, yeah, with the new moon, I'm thinking it's kind of a new start. Maybe that's a little obvious, but I think it's an opportunity. And with Venus moving into Virgo, that's where Venus is said to have its fall. Yeah, because it's exalted in Pisces. So that also has the idea or the kind of the energy of being at a disadvantage or being in a position where you're not going to be appreciated for what you do. And so, that makes me kind of think of drag queens. They go through this magical girl transformation. They become someone else. They have a different role in society as a drag queen than they do as a person. And that role is an entertainer, a performer, a protector, and an advocate for queer people. And it's not always appreciated. It can have that kind of Venus and Virgo energy of, the beauty and the glam of Venus, but it being in this sign of Virgo that's very critical and nitpicky and sometimes takes some convincing. And so, yeah, I just want to daydream together this Sunday. I want to think about what it would be like if we could be someone else and how that would change the way that we interact with each other and with the world. So that's it for this week. Stay tuned. We're going to have a monthly video for the astrology of August and check out my website. Sign up for my newsletter. Listen to my podcast. It's the same thing as this, but why not? Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.